Good morning and a warm welcome to Sunrise on this beautiful Saturday morning. I'm Joke Rogers.
I want to believe that somebody didn't just suddenly almost forget her name. Anyway, Amaya Makide, good morning and welcome to the program. Today, just in case you forget, is October 11th. Exactly 10 days away from after the independence.
Oh, come on.
We're already counting down to the end of the month.
The end of the year, lots of people. Once you hit October, then,
the euphoria that used to precede end of year is since gone.
But yeah, I wanted to say, usually the feeling of end of year and all that, there's no rush to say, oh, I'm excited. There's no excitement anymore in the air. I don't know.
Well, there is excitement. At least it wraps up, an end of year. One thing, okay, for instance, I was saying that when I was in secondary school,
yes,
by September,
yes,
we're not see rain again.
Okay.
September. Once the last rain falls sometime in August, the air that will blow you in September is Harmattan.
Yeah.
Now, you literally have to get into an air-conditioned room to have Harmattan.
Which part of the country was this?
Oyo State here.
Yes, it's more true of Oyo State. I grew up in Ibadan, so I know. So it's more true of that. Yes.
Even at that, I had reason to go to Kano.
Yes.
It was worse.
Worse. Kano
in the late 80s. It was, gosh. Oh, God, how I survived that night is still a miracle because I didn't sleep with any single thing like a cover cloth or duvet.
If not for the buildings, when you go to states like Kano, Jos, and all that during the Harmattan season, you might as well be, in Europe or elsewhere outside because of the way they dress and all that.
And now,
really bad.
Now we're still checking when is it going to rain. Anyway, welcome to the show. Hope you had your cup of cocoa this morning. I'm having mine right now. Well, she's going to have hers later.
I'll have mine later.
By the way, just to let you know, this is pure cocoa, and it's doctor recommended. Thank you very much.
Wow, you have to let me have some of that. Doctor's recommendations. Anyway, so what happened during the week? Something significant ahead of the elections in the next set of elections in 2027. We now have a new INEC chair, Mr. Amukpiton, Joash Amukpiton. Yes, he's Professor Joash Amukpiton. He's from Kogi State, I believe. Before that, the second the most senior person was handed over to Agbamuche before he took over, before the president nominated Professor Amukpiton, senior advocate of Nigeria. So I'm sure by the time he's doing what he's doing, he'll be looking at legal implications of everything before he takes a step. But it's good to have people like that at the helm of.
I was looking at, so what could have qualified this fella for this nomination, because it's still a nomination by the President and the Council of State. I found out that, first of all, he's very, erudite in law. Yeah. And one of the things that he has done is on electoral reforms. I have not been able to really dig into what aspects of the electoral reforms he was a part of, but the fact that he's, our elections is all about rule of law. So let's see how that plays out. That's one thing. Another thing is, well, a number of people have pointed at his age. Fairly 50-something these days is like the 70-something of those days.
Yes.
But now it's a lot younger, kind of person. So that's one thing. Then there are people who are pointing out to the Federal Republic of Nigeria, to all of us, that it is not an appointment, it's a nomination. Yeah. Now the question that is being asked is, what qualified him for the nomination? Could we have been a little more rigorous in the selection process? Well, we know that there was a former jurist, Liman, who was also touted. A former national commissioner, Professor Oloride, was also touted before this professor was nominated. So is there a way we could have been more rigorous? I don't know. But what does the law say? The law says, you know, it has to be someone that's going to be appointed by the president. Fine. But does that mean that the president is the puppet master? I don't think so. No, at least not according to the laws. If a chairman of INEC does anything outside of the law, it is the responsibility of all of us. Thankfully, we have the civil society organizations who have been at this for a while. So there was a statement put out, I saw the statement, by Yaga Africa and a number of other organizations saying, don't let this just be another bow and go. You know, particularly because of the recent example of a minister who had to resign because we didn't do, you know, our due diligence, so to speak. You know. So, well, the ball is now going to be in the court of the National Assembly once the president sends his name there.
But then again, when you think of it the other way, you know, there are some, you know, school of thought that said that one particular former governor, you know, is now at loggerheads with the presidency because he was dropped from ministerial nominee just because due diligence was applied and maybe he couldn't just be cleared by the DSS.
Well,
you know, so I don't know where we draw the line between doing due...
It's going to be difficult to draw the line, especially where politics is concerned.
Yeah.
No matter how duly diligent you are, so long as there's any coloration of politics, all of those sentiments are going to play out. But look, appointment is appointment. One thing that I am persuaded beyond all shadow of doubt about Joke is that Nigeria is on a particular course of destiny. And the universe is ensuring that we get there. No matter whose ox is God. So, we should celebrate that, and we should also celebrate the fact that Nigeria is 1 inch closer to the World Cup.
Yeah, because of one country that withdrew. And then they now have to drop points from other countries.
We won against Lesotho.
Yeah, well.
2-1.
Yes, yes.
Even if it is a marginal victory, it is victory. I celebrate it. Let me tell you what I enjoyed. I saw the scores. Full stop. I don't want my high blood pressure to rise any
further. But be ready.
For what?
For the high blood pressure.
No. I will always wait for the results.
Okay.
You know, because what's funny for me?
You will not watch the matches.
What's funny for me? Even when I know that they have won, I have seen the results they have won.
To go back and watch.
I now watch, and my blood pressure is still rising.
You'll still be kicking and.
So I will just settle for this course. For now. There is something else you pointed out. You know that we needed to talk about before we plunge into the show this morning. Oh, you don't remember? Okay, I don't remember either. So let's just plunge straight into the menu for the day.
You should be a comedian, honestly.
No, I'm not. There's an issue we'll be talking about this morning. It's concerning the World Bank report. But before that, we're going to go with curbing maternal and newborn deaths. That's going to be our first discussion this morning. And
then we'll have cascading dividends of economic recovery, part of the show.
Well, you know, I've always been an advocate of what are the states doing. So this morning we're talking about states' electricity management.
And why they should be managing the electricity of residents in the state. Why this job should go to them. They should be the ones supervising it. And we also have staying secured in a digital world. We do know that once, you know, we're opened up to that global digital world, all sorts of things come with it, like threats and, you know, cyber threats and all different kind of things. So one has to be very careful.
Now, today we're going to take you to school. How to read your body.
Wow.
Yes. Your body is a book. You open it, you read. We'll talk about that on Lifestyle this morning.
And we'll also have the Artist of the Week. We'll let you know who that is during the course of the show or when we get there. So
guaranteed.
Don't be impatient.
It's a human being.
It's a human being.
So as I have told you earlier, grab your cup of cocoa, or if you prefer cocoa, some people prefer other things. Amaya Makinde, she's Joker Rogers. We'll be right back.
We'll see you soon. And we kick off today's program with a very important subject that touches every family, every community, every society, and of course, the nation at large. And that's motherhood, bearing children, and, you know, the pros and cons of that. Curbing maternal and newborn deaths, which is, you know, a very, very important thing to look at. So the Lagos State government is partnering with the Federal Ministry of Health and has launched the Maternal and Neonatal Mortality Reduction Innovation Initiative to drastically reduce preventable maternal and newborn deaths through stronger coordination, smarter use of data, and inclusive health reforms. The Maternal and Neonatal Mortality Reduction Innovation Initiative, called MAMI, which kicked off in Lagos State, is supported by the World Health Organization and other agencies. Now, it's a part of Nigeria's National Health Sector Renewal Investment Initiative, NESRI, which targets a 30% reduction in maternal deaths and a 60% increase in health facility use by the year 2030. That's about how many years from now? That's just about 5 years from now. So we have in the studios with us this morning to talk about this, the Dr. Dayo Adeyanju is to my this side. My sense of direction.
We understand.
to my left. And he's the national team lead of the Maternal and Neonatal Mortality Reduction Innovation Initiative. That's the MAMI I just spoke about. Thank you so much for joining us on the program today.
Pleasure to be here.
And to my right, I have Dr. Oyeyemi Ogunjobi, who's the Swap Desk Officer, Lagos State Ministry of Health.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us again.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Right. I know that there was a... Let me start ladies first, you know. Yes, because, you know, there was a time that, you know, when we were talking about deaths of newborns per 100,000, I think, in Nigeria, it was, you know, really skyrocketing. And Nigeria was tragically one of those countries that recorded the highest rates of, you know, infant mortalities, you know, after birth. Where are we? Let's start with that. Where are we now before we start talking about, you know, what we're doing to reduce? You know, I know some of those things might have worked. I don't know, you will tell us more. But where are we at this point, you know, from what we were, like, say, 10 years ago?
Oh, okay. Good morning. Thank you for having me again. I will say that we're taking small steps to reduce the neonatal mortality rate and the maternal mortality rate, but there's a lot still to be done, hence the need for the sector-wide approach, you know, because we've been doing things in silos, every agency trying to curb it in their own way. But the sector-wide approach now is saying, can we all come together? Can we have a more effective way of doing things? The funds, the processes, the activities, everybody should just align so that then we'll see the drastic changes that we expect to see. Yeah.
Maybe I should ask this. From your experience as a woman and as a medical practitioner, what are the causes?
Oh, there's a lot. There's a lot. You know, during the workshop, we actually saw this video clip of, you know, Mommy is talking about why did Mrs. X die. You know, if you ask the people out there, why do we think mothers are dying, children are dying, they mostly say it's the health sector. But when you really look at it, it starts from the home. The girl child, the mother, it's actually... You know, they're kind of relegated, and, you know, their health, even to carry pregnancy to full term, your health has to be optimal. You know, the distance of the health facilities, the road networks. And, you know, so we've come to realize that there's a mirage of causes of why mothers die and why babies die. And so I'm thinking that that's why the MAMI initiative was set up to address, because it's sectoral, so it's not only the health sector. We're talking to the NURTW, the blood transfusion, the road networks. You know, there's just so much the transportation, emergency transportation system. So we're all coming together, and that was what our implementation plan is about. Everybody, the market women, the clergies, the imams, everybody, you know, we're all in the room to come up with the plans, because there were so many factors that played out in the course of maternal mortality.
You know, Dr. Adeoye, the reason I'm asking that question is so that people can understand where we're coming from and really know, okay, because if we don't know where we are coming from, if we don't know where we're going, at least we know where we're coming from. So if we have an idea of where we're coming from, we might know how to retrace our steps. And then, because the problem is never of fantastic initiatives. It's of ownership, of sustainability of the people. So in your opinion, and from what you know as a practitioner, what is the reason for these terrible numbers about
okay, so thank you very much. I mean, I'm super impressed that that vision, you know, of crashing maternal, we use the word crash anyway, maternal mortality is, of course, becoming a reality. When I saw the Lagos State Dex officer, you know, talking about Mami, that is the state ownership. And so the entire, you know, Mami is going out of, she mentioned, the Nigerian Health Sector Renewal Investment Initiative, which is a reform to overhaul the health sector, and the fact that we are adopting the sector-wide approach, you know, which speaks about all of us, you know, from the federal, the state, and local government, community, having one plan, one budget, and then one report, as well as one conversation. So you've already heard what she said. So with that plan, clear blueprint, 4 pillars, you know, to say, let us improve governance, let us strengthen health system, let us ensure that there is health security. But key there is improving the population outcome, health, which is the women, the children. So giving you that background, clearly, I keep telling everyone, it's no news, you know, that Nigeria contributes 30% of global maternal death, despite being, you know, 2% of the global population. What is new is what you are seeing. That concerted effort by the present administration, led by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, launching Mami, you know, to say, you know what, moving forward, all of us, and like he said, if there is any position we must lose the position of contributing the highest number of maternal death. That's what the president said. Now, secondly, is that there's no sitting on the fence. All of us need to be, you know, on board, which inform the signing of the compact between the federal, the state, and then the entire local government, you know, to ensure that moving forward to reform our health sector, all of us need to be, hands to be on deck. And that's why we are here, you know, in Lagos State. We've been to 30 states now, you know, because we identify clearly Nigerian maternal mortality is contributed by 172 LGAs in 33 states of the Federation. And out of that, Lagos State is contributing one of the LGA, that's Ibejuleki. And that's why we are here. And clearly, when you look at asking where we're coming from, so the background is that our maternal mortality is high, you know, 512 as we speak now. But you flash back, you know, in 10 years, it has been oscillating. That was in 2008, it was 545. And with all the huge investment, it jumped up to 576, you know. And then, of course, between 2013 and 2018, that's when it dropped to the 512. Now, what we're saying is that, and that's what she referred to, those silos approach, midwifery scheme, saving 1 million lives, all of those things will never work. If you look at, you know, the cost of drivers of maternal mortality, we have identified clearly, you know, the 5 delays. I haven't identified where the deaths are occurring in 172. We now look at why are they occurring. 5 delays of reaching, which she mentioned, delay in seeking health care, delay in then receiving health care. There's a problem with referring it to the next level of care. And then finally, that coordination is what is really missing. And that's why we are now, seeing that moving forward, to address all of this delay at a go, a woman needs to be registered, she needs to be tracked, she needs to be linked to the facility, she needs to have financial protection, there must be emergency transportation, and also we must ensure that the facilities that she's going is super ready. Either is a basic healthcare, basic emergency newborn care, which is primary health care, which is secondary health care, it must be super ready to provide that qualitative health care.
Just a quick one. What are the responsibilities, or rather, what are the objectives of this initiative? The reason I just want us to understand what it's about, and then because I see that you are trying to educate us already. I know the goal is to bring down the numbers, but what are the maybe the basic targets? What are the objectives? What are the things that people will see and say, oh, okay, this is what this is all about?
So it's also saying that what are we doing differently? Okay. So that's why I'm trying, I gave you that background and say that, moving forward, there are clear things. Now, Mami's strategy, where first is to say the target is to reduce, she mentioned, maternal mortality by 30%. It's actually 2027, not 2030. 2027, in the next 2 years.
2 years, right.
We should be able to drop that figure. And, and then, of course, on the 5, newborn mortality, which again is super high. And, of course, increased facility utilization. Here is it. When you get the women to the facility, clearly, you are sure of that person that will take that delivery, that skilled attendant. So now, all the Mami strategic, framework, actually focuses, on getting the women to the facility and then ensuring that she has qualitative health care from a skilled birth attendant. One is to say community line listing by the community-based health workers. And so we are encouraged state to recruit community-based health workers, and the federal government, is also, trying to support some states, in doing this. Now, secondly, those community-based health workers will line list these women, link them to the next primary health care, and then, of course, from there, the tracking of this woman, starts, because particularly there's a triage at that primary health care to identify a woman that is high risk and then refer them to the next level of care. You don't allow those ones to go and, deliver in the primary health care. They have to go to the second level of care, which is the secondary care facility, the general hospitals. So that plan, that complication readiness, those are the features of Mami. Then secondly, to say this woman that is high risk or in distress is linked, to emergency transportation, which is the delay in reaching health care. And then, of course, in receiving health care, that's the third piece of Mami, is this facility component. So we have the access. The access, is to say physical access, she gets to the facility, financial access, financial protection for that woman. And that's why the president has declared, for every woman that is in need, she must have a free cesarean section, free of charge. Then third piece is the revitalization of the facility. That is the primary health care. See, as we speak, 2,000 has been done since this president's administration came up. Revitalization. There's additional 2,000 this year again to revitalize the primary health care. And there's ongoing revitalization of general hospitals or secondary health care across the country. This is one per LGA. And then there's a commodity that is going with it. There's equipment. You heard 3 weeks ago, coordinating minister that is leading in all of this, is ensuring the flag of the distribution. Out of the 172 AGA, 80 of the AGA, 500 facilities, they, definitely, got some commodities, what you call the MNCH commodities. They got it. Okay. And all of this. So in terms of intervention, we actually are looking at also strengthening that data, intelligence, surveillance, and then to report every maternal death, and then review it, and then be able to respond. And then create some enabling environment like the digital in health, and then, of course, the sector-wide coordination.
You know, I would also very much look... I think you had a question.
Yeah, I was going to say that, you know, everything seems perfect and good and looking beautiful. And, you know, you've said so much. I'm enjoying what you're saying. I'm seeing the picture. Oh, I'm connecting everything. But, right. You know, how real is this, you know, with the people that are expected to benefit? It's good to plan to put all these things into place. But how does it really, is it really working out the way it's supposed to work?
Perhaps that question is cascading it. Yes. How are we getting it to the people?
Yeah, how are we
because
getting it done?
It is one thing, you know, I said something earlier about the fact that initiatives are amazing. Yeah. Fantastic plans, but it's the challenge is usually in the implementation and sustainability. Yes. Okay. Because at the end of the day, it's always the people.
Okay, thank you. So, like he was talking about the local governments. For example, in Lagos State, we have one local government, which is Ibejuleki. And so we've gone into Ibejuleki and we've gone to the women, not even the facilities alone. We have gone to interview some women. We did the verbal autopsies. Why do you think your child died? What happened? I know we got so many things. For example, I met a woman that she had we call it precious pregnancy, because the distance, the gap between her first and the current pregnancy is about 15 years. Okay. There's a PHC almost less than 5 minutes from her, a primary healthcare center. But she has registered at the general hospital, which is almost 45 minutes away from her. And I'm asking why. And she says, oh, because the pregnancy is precious. I'm like, no, at least register first at the PHCs. Then Could it be
because that the people don't trust the PHCs?
No, so she just feels because it's a precious pregnancy that the PHC is too basic for the pregnancy, so she would rather go to the... And I'm like, okay, I understand where you're coming from, but register first there and attend your regular ANCs so that at the very instance that some delay or some danger is noticed, then you can be transported to your journey. But if the PHC has no history of you, yes, it's going to be difficult. What if you fall into labor in the middle of the night? Do you understand? We also realized that they also had the problem of emergency transport, so ambulance services and everything. And so part of what he was talking about, the rural emergency ambulance service, it's going to be deployed first at Ibejuleki because of that factor. So, and most of those places are hard to reach. It's waterlogged. Even when we went there, and it was raining. Even to go through the road network was very difficult. So I know Lagos State of recent, we just launched we call them the Ambu bikes, you know. So those are the kind of things we would first deploy to those kind of areas so that I believe this time around it will work because we are more practical and it's context specific.
You know, there's something, you know, interesting in what my colleague said earlier. You know, that, look, these are the numbers. These are our realities. How we bring them down is another issue altogether. Just as Dr. Adeyanju said earlier, we all owe it to ourselves to ensure that this works, not just for the pregnant women, but for the children that they are going to give birth to, because some of them could probably have all the answers to
all our questions.
Cancer and all those other diseases that all of you have not been able to do anything about. Anyway, we have to thank you very much for your time this morning.
Yeah, so that's Dr. Dayo Adeyanju, the National Team Lead of the Maternal and Neonatal Mortality Reduction Innovation Initiative, MAMI. Thank you for coming. And Dr. Oyeyemi Ogunjobi, Swap Desk Officer, Lagos State Ministry of Health. A pleasure having you on the program.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So when we return, that World Bank report, how does it relate to you?
Right, and all those around you.
Exactly. We'll be right back. Thank you so much for staying with us. Sometimes it's difficult to bring the numbers, particularly economic numbers, to life.
Yeah.
For instance, when the World Bank says, despite the economic reforms of the federal government of Nigeria, 139 million Nigerians still live in poverty. Of course, the World Bank's country director for Nigeria, Matthew Verghese, made this known at the launch of the National Development Update report in Abuja. He commended the government for taking some steps in stabilizing the economy through recent policy reforms, but warned that more needs to be done to ensure better living standards for Nigerians. Now, he said, and I quote, "Growth has picked up, revenues have risen, debt indicators are improving, the FX market is stabilizing, reserves are rising, and inflation is finally beginning to come down. These are big achievements, and many countries would envy them. The only caution is, let's let Nigerians feel it." Or should I put it in the president's words? Let the poor breathe. So how do we ensure that these dividends of economic recovery are cascading to the people, particularly in the states and the subnationals generally? Well, two gentlemen are joining us this morning. Dr. Tayo Adeloju is the Chief Executive Officer, Nigerian Economic Summit Group. He joins us from our Abuja studio, and as you can see right beside him, Dr. Yoakwa Apera, CEO, Global Strategic Business Alliance, both of them in our Abuja studio. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having us.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Let me begin with you, Dr. Adeloju. For me, the problem has never been the numbers or the initiatives. It is always, how do the people feel it? How does it get to the people? From the words of the World Bank's country director in Nigeria, all the up and progressive numbers that we have seen and initiatives that we have seen are all good. Do you agree with them? Does the Nigerian Economic Summit Group agree with those numbers and those analysis?
So thank you. And I think your introduction is exactly where you want to start this conversation with Nigerians. First, there is not a single narrative when you look at an economic system, because an economic system is macro, meso, micro, and nano. And the characteristics of these different levels of the economic system are connected, and how they interact is important. You need macro stability to have micro success, but macro stability, whilst it's necessary, is never just enough. You have to have transmission of macro stability and success into micro impact and nano impact felt at level of firms, households, and individual wallets. So we were very unstable as a country a few years ago. We've become more stable. Greater stability can still be achieved, so that is true. And those numbers reflect macro stability. But the transmission of macro stability we've achieved has not yet produced gains yet in terms of, household living standards. That's yet to happen. And this is not the first time. In the first decade of our millennium, even when we grew at double-digit growth, we did not necessarily improve living standards at that pace. So Nigeria has not really been good at translating macro gains into micro and nano gains, because that requires other measures like aggressive job creation, robust social protection systems, and local level transformations that happen at the level of local governments and wards where people feel the impact. And so whilst the World Bank is correct on the macro, and they're very correct that we agree with those numbers, we do agree also that those gains now need the transmission effect to be felt at the meso, micro, and nano levels. And that's where the hard work is.
And that's okay, you want to take some more?
Yeah, I wanted to say that, so, with all of what you have, laid out and put down, that we've not really been able to achieve it, and this is still to you, Dr. Adeloju, So when do we begin to ensure, or how do we begin to ensure that it does trickle down as it should?
So there are two things. Nigeria has two types of numbers to measure poverty. We have monetary poverty, and we have multidimensional poverty numbers. So in 2022, when monetary poverty was at 56%, in other words, 56% of Nigerians were below the monetary poverty line of $1.9 a day. Multidimensional poverty, you will remember, was at 63%. That's 133 million Nigerians in 2022 were multidimensionally poor. Now, what is multidimensional poverty? It means you're measuring poverty not just in terms of money, but in terms of health, in terms of education, in terms of living standards, in terms of work and shocks. Now, your previous speakers were speaking to health poverty. How long does it take for a Nigerian to get care? Time to health care is one measure of poverty, for example. So you have to solve the question of poverty, you have to first identify how many of us are poor. And this is important. There must be an incentive to identify our poor. That's number one. Then you have to identify how we are poor. So if you look at the MPI numbers for Nigeria, how, for example, Bayelsa West is poor is not the same way Sokoto North or Sokoto East is poor. And this then brings it down to states and local governments, right? Because if in one community what is driving poverty is, for example, a lack of water, right? And the lack of water is creating health issues, and the health issues is depleting household incomes. That's different from a community that is solving for insecurity, where insecurity is keeping them from farmlands, and therefore they do not have livelihoods, and therefore they are poor. We need to tackle poverty, not at 32,000 feet. You need to tackle poverty at the centers of intervention, usually at ward level, at local government and community levels. And there is not enough focus on using the data at that level to tackle the structure of deprivations that Nigeria feels. Let me give you a classical case. We went into a community where young girls go to fetch water kilometers away from school. They go and fetch water all day. By the time they are back, school is over. And if they do that for most of their adolescent years, these girls will fail to go to school. So you see there's a connection between water poverty in that community and learning poverty, which then creates future problems. Their lack of education then constrains their capacity to now make a better living, because, of course, education is a predictor of better incomes, and so on and so forth. Or take out-of-school children. We've gone into some communities where out-of-school children are out of school because they are economic actors. They're helping their parents on the farm or at the shop. And if you take those children out, then those businesses fail and the family cannot eat. So you say to the child to go to school, and the mother says, well, for my child to go to school, I need somebody else to help at the farm. And so when we discuss reducing poverty in Nigeria, we need to leave 32,000 feet and come to where our people are at. And that means that local government chairmen, now that we're discussing their fiscal autonomy, must become a bit more accountable. State governors must become a bit more accountable about the structure of poverty in their states. Because the structure of poverty in the northeast state is not the structure of poverty in the southeast state. They are different. The dynamics are different and can't be solved from Abuja no matter how hard we try. So you need to ask the question, how are they poor? Why are they poor? What are the constraints in that community? Is it water? Is it, security? Is it access to health care? You go to some communities, the closest primary health care center, is maybe 4 hours away, 6 hours away, which means that by the time the people are solving to go for health care, the disease burden has become unmanageable many other times.
Okay. Now, let me come to Dr. Apera. It seems like this issue is pointing in the direction, well, the issue that the World Bank raised is pointing in the direction of poverty or the development not cascading to the people as expected. Here is what I think. As Dr. Aduloju said, the macro issues have direct impact on the micro issues. Now, one of the things, because I was trying to find out whose responsibility is what, and correct me if I'm wrong, that macro issues are largely the responsibility of the federal government, even though the activity of states have some effect on that. But the microeconomic issues are significantly that of the states, the subnationals, more than the federal government, because it's like the federal government creates the structures and the states, pretty much build on it, because the micro issues affect people in the various localities where they live. Please correct me if I'm wrong on this.
Thank you very much. So, first, you're not wrong. The microeconomic challenges are more, or solutions to that are more down to the subnationals and LGAs, because they are closer to the individuals and the households, right? But the federal government sets the policy direction, the systems and the structures that the states then adapt for implementation, etc. But it can only happen if first we acknowledge that we have a problem, that this is a challenge that needs the attention of the LGAs, the states, and then the federal. Not acknowledging that is the beginning of our problem. Now, Adolu just spoke to the poverty figures. 52% of Nigerians below the poverty line. And that hasn't changed really when you look at the World Bank report and you acknowledge it. So the Mr. President did direct the world level solutions. But you will ask, what is the body of evidence that his policy directive was based on? How did he know that the solution is world level approach? By not acknowledging the fact that those poverty figures do exist. So that will be the first approach, right? Like Adolu just said, we will first isolate the issues to the where, and the where is down the community level, individual households and individuals. And then we can then begin to provide solutions to it. So you are absolutely correct.
Is it out of place to say, Dr. Apera, that the states kind of took responsibility in that regard in one way? Here is what I mean. During your work with the social investment program, you came up with the national social register of sorts. And when a new set of governors came on, they said that those numbers were not representative of the realities in their states. And of course, we asked you a number of questions at that time, and you said no. Maybe they didn't know how rigorous it was because there was no figures that came from the federal government. That all the figures in the register you created at that time were from the states by the people in the various communities. Is that in any way an instrument that could have helped in controlling the numbers that the World Bank is looking at?
Absolutely, because it was and still is a community-based targeting system where the community identifies those who are poor and vulnerable in their communities. Now, it also adds to the poverty context of each community, because each community is able to define in their own terms what poverty means, right? And so when you are then looking at solutions and you pick up such information, you're able to actually identify why these people are poor, and you are able to provide solutions to resolving that issue. So it still is, and the social register, it's still there and it's growing, and it does provide the data and the evidence that the federal government, the state government, the local government needs to tackle this problem. Okay? So, and the social register does not only have the numbers of the people, it has the community profile. It states exactly the proximity of these individual households to healthcare. to access to their communities' roads, to banks, to other social amenities, that shows the gaps that they have or that exist in the community to the social amenities. Now, a holistic approach in tackling to resolve those gaps then helps poverty reduction approaches. So when you then look at safety nets that support these individuals to lift them out of poverty and provide them a life of dignity, then it becomes a whole development approach. So if you deny the existence of the data that is actually done by you, because the social register is first the state register. There is no federal register. The social register is a state social register. It's the aggregate of state registers that makes up the national social register. So the states needs to go back to their state planning agencies and call out that data and interact with the data and begin to build systems and structures that help answer those gaps questions that have been identified by their poverty data. Now, if you then disaggregate even the poverty survey to the states and get the states to begin to, why would the states not do their own poverty surveys, local government surveys, to better understand the issues and then provide solutions to them? That will be the question, right?
Now, Dr.
So there are loads of questions to be asked.
Yeah. I just wanted to follow up on that right quick. Now, if those numbers belong to the states, and it would seem like these numbers are either not in use, or the states and the federal government are not sitting at the same table to harmonize macro benefits or macro achievements to their microeconomic indices or instruments or whatever, and this instrument is one of those things. So is there, in your opinion, a divergence between the activities of the federal government and the states, and consequently it is difficult for us to achieve the kind of national development that we want? Dr. Apera.
Absolutely. The states are not, even within the states, the local governments are not talking to each other. The states are not talking to the local government structures other than allocations and what comes out of those revenues, right? So the states are also not on the same table with the federal government. And so they need to be in sync to solve the poverty question. The federal government can do its best in some of the policy directions, some of the actions on the macro level, but they need the state to also come to the table to make it happen. Otherwise, it don't just happen. So these structures must be cascaded, must be sort of broken down to the lowest unit, economic unit, which is the household. And so the households, the local government looks at their community, look at the political world, then push it up to the state. The states needs to aggregate all what is coming from the local government and their approach to resolving it. And then that has to come to the federal level, that aggregates it on the national level with policies that then addresses these issues. Tell me, and I mean, maybe Adolijo might be able to answer better, he's more in the system than I am, but which of our state ESCOs or even the federal level, federal government executive council meeting puts on the table the evidence that is coming out of our system?
Maybe a good way to ask, just a question there, Dr. Apera. Maybe Dr. Adeloju would answer that question this way. You know, Dr. Adeloju, so you are president of the Nigeria Economic Summit Group, and you also know that there is such a thing in Nigeria as the National Economic Council. First, do you agree with Dr. Apera that it seems that the federal and state governments are not always speaking from the same or singing from the same song sheet? If that is the case, doesn't that put a kind of question mark on whether or not the National Economic Council actually sit together for peer reviews?
That's a fantastic question, and I think that my brother Apara basically has brought two important and significant issues together. First, you cannot solve poverty in Nigeria without a national consensus that we all need. That's all of us. We need a whole of government and whole of society approach to reduce monetary poverty, which the World Bank says is at 61%, and multidimensional poverty, which in 2022, right, was at 63%. And by the way, child poverty is half of that number. In other words, half of our population is that are multidimensionally poor are children. So 63% are multidimensionally poor. That's 133 million in 2022, and half of that number are children. Now, if that's the truth, right, then a whole of society's approach is required, and the whole of government approach is required to not leave so many children behind. So if you have 133 million people and half of them are children, right, and they are poor, you are leaving children behind at scale. That's your future. Now, if we say we are in a child crisis of deprivation across schooling, nutrition, etc., how should we be responding? There should be a national consensus that the child is at risk at scale, and then at National Economic Council, that should translate into a national poverty reduction agenda, that we will reduce multidimensional poverty of children by half by 2030, for example. Now, you need a national target, because that national target creates a mandate for federal, state, local. Now, the states then go back and look at their own numbers, because the numbers are not the same. When you look at the poverty numbers in the north, it's different from the south, the east, the south, the southwest. They don't have the same numbers. Regions can then sit down and say, how are we poor? Right? And you will find that there are unique deprivations that are unique to regions. Then regions or geopolitical zones can now sit and say, okay, our highest poverty is in food. Maybe another region's highest poverty is in health, right? And they then say, we will now focus on that together. Then at the state level, a state may find that the biggest numbers are in food insecurity, somebody else is in access to healthcare, somebody else is in education, and then tackle that. And then call the local governments together and say, please go and sit with your people, look at these numbers, and come back with, by local government and ward, what are the highest deprivations we must tackle. If you do that, you will have a local government charter that delivers a needs assessment for the state. The state will have its priorities that it delivers to the geopolitical, clusters, and that can form a national poverty reduction agenda. Currently, the National Economic Council has something it calls the Human Capital Development Dashboard. So it takes all your human capital indicators across states and gives you a heat map. And I think that's what the governors and when they convene under the chairmanship of His Excellency the Vice President, that's what they look at, right? But beyond looking at the dashboard and the indicators, the NEC, FEC, and the Federation needs a national poverty reduction strategy. And I think His Excellency, the Honorable Minister for Budget and Economic Planning, Bagodo, when he opened the summit, the Nigeria Economic Summit on Monday, one of his opening statements was the government's intention to create this reduction strategy from now to 2030, and that's welcome. But it shouldn't just be a federal poverty reduction strategy and plan. It should be a national poverty reduction strategy and plan. It should allow us answer the questions that, for example, how is Borno deprived? What is the structure of deprivation in Borno? How is Ondo deprived? Very likely different from Borno. And how should the state plan to target it? Then each state should come up with targets that they commit to. All the states should tell the Federation by what amount they will reduce learning poverty or schooling poverty, what amount will reduce health or food insecurity. And then we can then all hold ourselves accountable to go along. Now, if you can do that, then resources, the point you made, Makinde, about resources, more allocation of FEC coming to the states can now be prioritized along the deployment of these priority areas, right? and local governments that now have more fiscal autonomy, they too can now take that those resources that they now have and allocate them along those areas, and we as citizens can then hold everybody accountable using the data at ward, at local, at state, at geopolitical, at national, and then we make more progress. So we then know that, okay, when we've cut out of school by half, we know we are now as half. When we increase the number of Nigerians that can get a primary health care center, we know how much we've covered. When we increase, number of us that have access to clean cooking fuel. By the way, access to clean cooking fuel is the highest deprivation in Nigeria, followed by sanitation, followed by access to a primary health care center, followed by food insecurity. These are not our numbers. These are the numbers from the National Bureau of Statistics. So if we know how we are poor, and the data is there, Apara's point, we can almost triangulate using the data we have how communities are poor. If that data is available, what is failing to happen is that data is not forming the basis of local government development plans. Local government development plans are not feeding into state development plans, and state development plans are misaligned from the national development plan.
Right.
So one of our advocacies coming out of the Nigerian Economic Summit this week is, as the country contemplates its new development plan, 2026 to 2030, the plan should have a strong poverty reduction strategy component that we agree with the president should be ward-based. 2, a clear job creation plan, because, by the way, you can't reduce poverty by simply just giving handouts alone, right? Some of the constraints to lifting people out of poverty is we have not created enough decent, high-paying jobs. And so you actually need a poverty reduction strategy right beside the national job creation strategy.
Right.
Makinde, if I may just chip in a little bit so that we don't maybe lose a very important point that Adolojo raised around child poverty. In 2006, there was a publication by international NGO stating the malnutrition figures in northern Nigeria, and the fact that states in the northwest cross over to Niger for feeding centers, right, to access feeding centers. Now, fast forward 2006, right? Fast forward to 2025 and explain why we're having the challenges in the northwest of insurgents that we have. Because we perhaps failed to tackle it, we had malnourished children that had very low cognitive development capacity, and leading to low productivity, leading to illiteracy, leading to what we have now in the insurgents there, because those are now the 18, 17, 20-year-olds, 25-year-olds that will field in 2026 to address. Now ready guns for kidnappers and insurgents. So just wanted to push the dangers of not recognizing the numbers and the evidence and planning against those that would then expose us in years to come.
Right. And, you know, let's wrap this up, really. We don't really have so much time, and we have to let you gentlemen go in a couple of minutes. But really, I must say, Ayo, who's asking all these questions? We're hearing a lot of this is what should happen, this is what could happen if, you know, some steps are taken. So who should be asking all these questions? Who should be linking the local governments, the data from the local government to the state, to the federal government? Who should be collating all these data? It seems as if we know what to do, but there's a deep disconnect in doing it, or doing it and finishing off what we're doing.
Perhaps the question, maybe let me help you ask Dr. Apera that question.
You have to go.
You know, maybe if you can just address that in 30 seconds. Bring in those interest groups all around. Dr. Adoloju mentioned something that, look, it shouldn't be a federal government agenda, it should be a national agenda. How, Dr. Apera, in 30 seconds, do we take up that agenda?
The federal government needs to show leadership, so it has to come from the federal government, and then it has to be designed in a way that brings all stakeholders on board, from the local government to the state to the federal.
Okay.
And the responsibility of delivery must be that of the state, and the state must wake up to the responsibility to take that charge on with the federal government leadership.
Okay.
That would be my answer.
Dr. Adeloju, the challenge of ownership is right there as well. Because most times when the federal government comes up with an initiative, the states will say, look, we are autonomous, we can do this by ourselves and all those things. What's the ownership angle for the states so that it's not just a federal government initiative that the states can turn their noses up at, but they can own as well and say, okay, this is part of our thing. How do we champion that ownership ambit? In 30 seconds.
Well, you know, one of the commitments of the NESG, for example, is just to scale the availability of the understanding of the data. You know, so we've created centers that focus exclusively on this multidimensional poverty data, Policy Innovation Center. And the idea is we need to tell Nigerians what the data says, because politicians seem to respond more to when the masses say they want something. And so the more of us that understand the data, the more we can place some social demand for political accountability.
Okay.
But within the system, like I said, everybody should be accountable for the deprivations under them. If a state is looking at poverty in its own state that is at a certain threshold, that should be a state responsibility. Now, a perfect world will be a whole of government approach where the federal government says, because we own these institutions at the federal and national level, we will support poverty reduction in XYZ way. So you have a Ministry of Humanitarian that can support crisis. You have a Ministry of Education that can support reducing education poverty. A Ministry of Health that can do health, etc., like that.
Okay.
Then under that, you have national councils of education, health, where all the commissioners from the 36 states sit. Yeah. You have it in health, you have it in education, you have it in agriculture. So what we need is just clear targets and accountability.
It sounds to me like you're already creating the next summit.
Yes.
Right now. So,
and I will say that it's quite remarkable, you know, what he's saying. But really, everybody has to be accountable. But who's taking notes?
You're still asking questions.
I'm asking you, really. Who's monitoring the accountability of people? You know.
But Makinde, I think to both of you, this is how to start. You've brought it up on television. Nigerians that can hear this conversation now look at the data for themselves that have come up, and that's how we get everybody interested.
Good.
And by the way, there's a national development plan that we are building now, right. 2026 to 2030. Let's all get into it.
Yeah.
Well,
thank you.
The race is on.
The race is on. Thank you so much, Dr. Tayo Adeloju, Chief Executive Officer, Nigerian Economic Summit Group, and Dr. Ayokwa Apera, CEO, Global Strategic Business Alliance, both gentlemen from our Abuja studios. Thank you so much for your time today on the program.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
So when we return,
yes, certainly,
we're going to the States. What are we talking about? If you remember, one cup of cocoa for you.
Welcome back to the program, Well, Staying Secured in a Digital World. In today's complex cyberspace, the role of the Chief Information Security Officer is more critical and multidimensional than ever, having evolved beyond their traditional boundaries. Security leaders must navigate geopolitical volatility, technological disruption, and systemic cyber risks in order to defend their organizations against expanding attack surfaces. Now, we have in the studio to talk about this subject, Olabode Agbola. He's the president, Cyber Security Experts Association of Nigeria. He's to my left here. And we also have Okorie Ukamaka, is the group head, Conduct and Compliance, the Alternative Bank, and she's to my right. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you and good morning.
Yes, to this program. First, if I could start with you, tell us more about, cyber security and the risks that, we face as a country and, of course, as it transcends to organizations as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Cybersecurity has become a global phenomenon, and especially Nigeria is not an exception. And if you look at the way businesses are run nowadays, businesses are run through the use of applications, and every application has got its own inherent vulnerabilities. And this is what the attacker leveraged to cause their cyber issues. So every organization must come to that understanding to agree that there must be a deliberate effort to ensure those vulnerabilities are managed so that there won't be any room for any cyber crook to exploit them. Yeah, so it's becoming a national issue as well, because most organizations in Nigeria that are in critical sector, they also leverage the use of applications. So any single breach on any of this critical sector can affect the Nigeria economy. For instance, oil and gas, for instance, manufacturing, for instance, airspace system, banking and finance. So when there is an issue around this critical sector, Nigeria will take a blow. And that is why governments are now prioritizing security of digital assets in this cyber age.
And how safe is Nigeria? I do know that there was one of the ministers, I think, mentioned. No, there was one of the ministers. I can't remember his name now.
That's Professor Dr. Professor Pantami.
Pantami, yes, yeah. Thank you. He was very passionate about this issue. I think it was one of his, that was one of his major drives as a minister. And he did a lot of work, with that. So where are we, in this? Are we still, did we use that as, a stepping stone? I know that the work has been going on in the background, even maybe before he came on board. But, where are we now in the state of things with the safety from cyber security threats?
Okay, thank you for the question. Let me first of all say that I'm not a politician.
I know.
So, but I'll tell you what I know.
Yes.
The past 3 administrations, I think this regime is doing excellently well, but there is still a lot to be done. I will give you an example. This administration has set up a separate agency under the Office of National Security Advisor called Nigerian Cyber Crime Coordinating Center, NCCC. So this agency oversees every attack for as much as their tool can enable them. And they also have a response system to ensure that Nigeria is safe. Then in June 2024, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu also mandated the Nuhu Ribadu, who is the National Security Advisor, to ensure there is a strategy to protect critical national information infrastructure. This is a kind of a group name for critical sectors in the economy, like oil and gas, like airspace, like banking, like manufacturing. So there is a strategy to ensure that these are protected. Then also, we've got National Crime Prohibition Law of 2015. Then now it has been revised to 2025, which has more response time for any cybercrime related issue. Then also, this same administration also has passed into a law, Nigerian Data Protection Act, which also have an agency called Nigerian Data Protection Commission. So this commission has been very effective in ensuring that the safety of personal information is being taken responsibly by organizations. For instance, MultiChoice was fined with 766 million for violating this act. So also Fidelity Bank 555 million for violating this act. So we could see that the government is moving in that direction.
Okay.
But do we have more to do? Yes, we got more to do.
Okay, Dr. Ukamaka, where does all this lead, in your own opinion?
Okay, so in my own opinion, it's a positive direction, towards ensuring safety of data for individuals and organizations, right? And what it has also done for us is, for myself that is coming from a financial institution, so you find out that even the government, from our guidelines of the corporate governance, you find out that it is even important that from the board, everything about cybersecurity is embedded in the system. So you have is a must that one of the non-executive directors must be knowledgeable or have requisite knowledge in cybersecurity, right? There's also committees that are set up too. And these committees are between the technology, information and communication technology, and then the cybersecurity, where they meet quarterly also to review the safety of the data for the system, and also to ensure that they have an oversight of what happens in the financial institution. And I know it's not just applicable to my bank, the alternative bank, but other banks. So I would say that it is in the right direction.
Okay. Dr. Orlando Olumide Odejide joins us also on this same issue. CEO of Training House Limited joins us from Abuja. Now, in all of this, perhaps one of the questions that I would like to take you up on is whether or not you think people, the populace, is even conscious of this whole digital world security stuff. Okay, I guess I just understand that Dr. Odejide is unavailable. For me, Dr. Bekepan, Mr. Abuola, the challenge is the people. Whether or not the people are even conscious of that, of this whole digital security stuff.
Yeah, I would call it a vulnerability because people's unaware also is a vulnerability. Yeah, so a lot of people in Nigeria are users of technologies, whether for business transactions or for banking or for social media engagement, and all of these have their loopholes. And a lot of people are not aware of basic things they need to do. So I would say that there is a lot to be done when it comes to awareness. That is why our association, in our own little way, we go out of our way to ensure we educate people on how to stay safe. For instance, this October is the Global Information Security Awareness Month, and we've had a lot of programs. We still have more where we educate people on password protections. You will see some people still using their name and 1234 for password. Some password is maybe Bola 1234. It is easy for hackers to hack such passwords.
People have too many things to remember now. Putting password in your head.
Yeah, there are tools called password manager. So you can have password manager on your system, and it manages password for every application you have on your system. So you don't have to cram all of those. So, but are people aware that there is anything called password manager? I guess few. So government and institutions and associations needs to step up to educate people, and we need to increase our effort to ensure that even down to the market, people in the market, they are aware of how to protect their digital system.
Uzomaka, Ukamaka, I still stay with this human factor. We often hear that people are the weakest link in cybersecurity. So how do we ensure that individuals and organizations become more aware and become more proactive?
Okay, so great question, especially in the era that we find ourselves, So, yes, people are really the weakest link, but it now depends on how the institution, the organization, and the society goes around it. So, and why I'm saying that is, these same people that are the weakest link can later turn around to be the first line defense. So in order to ensure that we eradicate this weak link thing, it has a lot to do about information and capacity building. So for instance, I would always make reference to my organization and what we do around these things to ensure that we are safe and protected. So you see that the trainees cascade down from the board to even the cleaner in the bank. Everybody needs to know what to do and when to do it. So, simple things like clicking on a link can expose a lot of information, reusing passwords, sharing data with people, this thing. So there's a constant and intentional knowledge sharing sessions constantly going on, capacity building that is intentional, so that people are well prepared and well informed of this security risk and, you know, what not to do. And again, you know, one thing I found out that if you empower your employees in terms of resources, right, enough control mechanisms, building their capacity and trusting them, they usually come out better. Okay. And that's how you turn them around to become your first-line defense. Okay.
Well, Dr. Odejide, I understand that you are now available for us. So also speak to the human element in all of this. October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Great time to discuss creating a culture of cybersecurity. But it all comes down to the people. How well are we doing? What are the inhibitions you think we have in factoring in the people element of this? And where do we go from here?
All right, thank you very much. I hope you can hear me very clearly.
Well, we can hear you.
All right, brilliant. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here. I think we all should be worried. I think my organization should be worried. Channels Television should be worried. Everybody should be worried when it comes to cybersecurity. Yesterday, I was with the Chief Information Security of an officer of a bank, and we were doing some testing on his platforms, and we could still see some vulnerabilities that, you know, if anybody who's got a keen eye or who's got any kind of technical expertise could find that out, that would have been a problem even for that particular bank. So cybersecurity is here to stay. It will be here in another 50, another 100 years. And I think all institutions, channels, and divisions should be worried. People are critical. Processes are also very critical, and systems are critical. But as I always will tell people, it's people that will put in the processes, and it's also people that will put in the systems in themselves. So everybody should be worried, and everybody needs to do something about it. Also this week, I was with the executives of a government institution, and the executives were going through a cybersecurity and threat assessment session. And even they were completely surprised at the kinds of vulnerabilities that they are exposed to as an organization, and these are the people who just felt that they were fine ahead of time. So people is a concern. We need to do a lot of awareness, and there will be now, even into the future, awareness for the executives, awareness for the drivers, awareness for the security guards, awareness for every human being or every staff in the organization. And I think that's the key word. How do we ensure that each of our institutions keep running some kind of information security or cybersecurity awareness session all year round? It's not for some people, it's for all of us. And so I think if we do that appropriately, we'll reduce the risk significantly.
So let's bring this home now. Now I want to quickly go around the room. Mr. Bola, let me begin with you. You're the president of cybersecurity experts in Nigeria. And not all of us are experts. So what should we be hearing from you throughout this month of October? What should the people all over the Federal Republic of Nigeria be hearing from you and your members about staying safe?
Thank you very much. We've started since 1st of October, and every day we release one awareness topic, ranging from password security, multi-factor authentication, how to avoid ransomware, how not to use weak password, how to ensure the software you want to use is not full of vulnerabilities, how to avoid downloading software from untrusted sites. So the topics ranges from human-centered topics to organization-centered topics to even cultural-centered topics. So this Wednesday that just passed, we did a summit in Lagos here, where which was called Cyber Secure Nigerian Summit, which was attended by banks, CISOs, attended by DG of NITDA, by people who are member of Forbes, and a lot of people attended, and it was very, very impactful. And we've also had invitations from different organizations, for instance, from medical associations, from risk management associations, from the legal department. They collaborate with us to do awareness. So this month is so busy.
Okay.
And we are still looking for more opportunity to collaborate. So even we are be happy to collaborate with channels. Your employee, we can give you free awareness. That's what we do, we don't charge.
Okay. Well, madam, what should we be hearing? Particularly, well, since you're a mother, children, how do we secure them online?
Okay, so, great question. Okay, so as a mother, first of all we start with the maturity. What are the ages or what age should this child even have access to all this information and also be exposed via social media? So mothers have to be intentional about this, right? It's not the time that we must obey what children want, but we have to balance it because we may obey and end up being the ones to cry. So we have to balance it, And then again, I really don't believe in telling people, don't do this without explaining why, right? Because if children grow up understanding why certain things shouldn't be done, it wouldn't be so difficult as like, this is the law in this house, you mustn't do this. So it goes back to this capacity building in your own home. We start sensitizing these children. We start telling them the implications and the risk.
Absolutely.
And also, it's also encouraging to let them know to prioritize. This should be your priority as of today.
Absolutely.
And not roaring all over the social media, And then finally, to cap it is, even we as mothers, we just don't tell children what not to do, how not to do it, but how do we live exemplary lives? So it means we also have to be careful. The sites we visit, the information we give out there, because they are watching us.
Those children are very, very adventurous.
Exactly. They are watching us.
Yeah, so. Dr. Jide, this one is about young people. We've seen claims online that have gotten some young people into trouble. Yeah. And they say that they are using it for catching crews and chasing clout. So, in this month of cybersecurity awareness, how, in your opinion, do you think young people all over the nation, the different parts of the country, can stay safe online?
Once again, thank you very much. They're the basic things that everybody should know, right? And two things for me. One will be that we all need to know what to do with our phones and what we should not be doing with our phones. And because our phones open up a lot of vulnerabilities for all of us as individuals and even in our homes and in our organizations. So they're key things in terms of the security settings with the browsers and every other kind of setting on our phone. I know on our phones, we only care about Instagram and making calls on WhatsApp, but there are security settings that we should have on each of those platforms. And we all need to be aware of these things. Even if you type it into ChatGPT, what are the top 5 things I need to do on my phone to ensure that I'm secure? It will give you thoughts and ideas on specific things that you need to do. And that will be number one. Number 2 will also be with the computers that we use, either at home or at work. There are security settings that we should have on the systems, and we can't work with computers like we don't understand what they are or that they actually have vulnerabilities. So we also need to address these key things. Once again, ChatGPT will guide you appropriately in terms of some of the things you need to do. And lastly, for me, is this has got to be done at an organizational level and also, tied to homes and institutions. So information security is a big deal. It's a big deal for media houses. It's a big deal for government institutions. It's not only for banks and insurance companies and pension organizations, even for mosques and churches. Everybody should take a formal and structured approach to information security. And hopefully, if we all do that, it will lead to much more secure institutions and to a much more secure country in itself. Thank you very much.
Right. It's all well and good, what we're talking about, creating awareness and, trying to make people aware of these things. But in all of that, that some of the people who are the culprit of, these attacks are also, part of the awareness, listening and seeing what is being done and, how people are being educated. So how do we begin to provide that extra security? For instance, like in organizations where, you know, attacks happen, some of the staff in those organizations are working or are collaborating with the people that are perpetrating the attack.
That's insider threat.
Yeah.
That's quite unfortunate that we can't 100% eliminate insider threats. The organization must put control and mechanism in place to ensure that we reduce the impact of insider threats. And one of the ways to get that done is to ensure that controls are put in place, especially access control. And the control should be based on RBAC. RBAC means role-based access control. So someone who has not got in need of any access should not be given that access. And also, there should be a lot of structured awareness program. For instance, organizations don't have awareness program for the whole year. They just jump on it anytime and they deliver it. There should be a metrics to measure that January we will do this topic, February that topic, and there should be a metric to measure we are complying to the program and we are doing well. So when that is done, technically we can block this insider threat, and also non-technically as well, we can also prevent this insider threat as well.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Well,
it's always a lot to unpack. Yeah. You know, years ago, still with a radio station, I created a radio program about cybersecurity because people have very, very costly phones and all they do is text and call. Anyway, thank you so much for your time this morning. Mr. Olabode Agboola is President, Cybersecurity Experts Association of Nigeria. We've also had Mr. Korie Ukamaka, Group Head, Conduct and Compliance, the Alternative Bank, as well as Dr. Orlando Odejide, who joined us virtually. He is the CEO of Training Heights Limited. Gentlemen and lady, we appreciate your time today.
Thank you very much.
Thank
you
now,
very much.
I talk about the people a lot because there is always a lot that people have to grapple with and we don't have an understanding of it. So when you hear climate change, climate this one, you don't even know what it is. It's not just the weather.
Yeah, it's a lot more.
What's it about? We'll find out some of that when we return. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Earlier in the week, we had a situation where the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Federation, Mr. Wale Edun, called on organizations, agencies, and stakeholders in the climate ecosystem. Mr. Wale Edun, the Finance Minister, called on organizations, agencies, and stakeholders in the climate ecosystem to brace up and take advantage of money. How much? $100 billion meant for developing countries for climate action. I'm not Mr. Edun, and I'm not in the climate environment. But we have someone with us in our Abuja studio who will be giving us an understanding of what this is all about. Mr. Ifeanyi Peters Uwoke joins us. He's the national team lead of the PACE program. He joins us right there in Abuja studio. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning, Ayo and Joke. Thanks for having me.
The number one...
You can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. The number one issue that I usually have, Mr. Uwoke, when we talk about climate change is always the people. And I'm sorry, I seem to be shouting more about the people all day. And the reason is, we talk about these lofty initiatives. Climate change sounds technical, but it's something that affects the people in the various parts of the country, in the localities. Flooding hits homes in urban Nigeria, even suburban Nigeria. And people don't even know why. Everyone is pointing at government. Government is not doing this, government is not doing that. That is why we're having funding. But there are bigger issues. First question that I'd like to ask you, Mr. Uwoke, is how are we communicating these climate issues to the people?
Thank you very much, Ayo. And that's a very, very good question and a good way to start this conversation. Because understanding what this is all about and the impact on the people is crucial and very, very key for each stakeholder, and I mean every stakeholder, to take action. Now, awareness is a big challenge because people hardly understand what hits them. You talked about flooding. We talked about rising temperatures. What is the cause of rising temperatures? What is the cause of excessive rainfall that leads to flooding? So it is important to make the connection between people's action and its impact on our environment. Now, emission is one thing. There's a lot of emission happening with automobile, fossil fuel, and the kind of gases that we use. There's a lot of people who take actions but do not know the correlation between the action they take and its impact on the environment. So awareness, as far as I'm concerned, to the generality of the public, including policymakers, the citizenry, and all stakeholders, is actually still very limited. But there is, like you said again, there's also some controversies around it, whether it is reality or not, whether climate change is reality or not. There's a lot of debate around that. And it's not what we're going to go into today. What we're going to go into today is basically sharing, to have a shared understanding that climate change is real. It is an existential threat, and it impacts on our lives. It impacts on our businesses. It impacts on our health. It impacts on practically everything that we do. It impacts on our economy. Essentially, that is what we need to focus on today, not the sciences or not the argument around whether it exists or not. We can feel it. Extreme flooding, extreme variation in weather conditions, rising temperatures. As you can imagine, in Abuja, sometimes daytime temperatures sometimes rises up to 40 degrees centigrade. What is the cause of all of these things?
Now, maybe that leads me to the question of, well, you've talked about awareness. Awareness is one thing. Communication in a way that people can take action is another altogether. So you may want to speak to that. But tell us, is that part of the reason? Is that part of what we need, this $100 billion that Mr. Waliadun was speaking to when you launched that climate funding guide? Is that what he's talking to? Is it part of what he's speaking to?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what he's talking about, because for countries to respond effectively to the challenges of climate change, we need resourcing. And to assess those resourcing, there are criteria attached to those resources, those funding. So there are global commitments made by bilateral, multilateral organizations, including foundations, and there is also investments by local banks, state governments and local governments where this issue of climate change happens. So when there is deforestation, it happens in a state and a local government. When there is flooding, it happens in a state and a local government. When there is severe challenges, it happens in a state and a local government. So that is why the guide to assessing climate finance is focused on subnational government, our states, on how they can unlock access to climate finance that enables them to respond to the challenges of climate change. It could be flooding, it could be energy transition, it could be several, but also eco-friendly businesses. Eco-friendly businesses are those businesses that are investing in green economy to create green jobs. Basically that enables us to reduce our carbon footprints. It could be a bit technical. Carbon footprints are those emissions that happen when you use things like fossil fuel. So if you're investing in solar energy, for example, you are reducing carbon footprints. Imagine several Nigerian households having access to green energy, which is and we have solar in abundance in Nigeria. But we need the technology. We need it to be reasonably priced in such a way that families, businesses could access them and reduce the cost of energy, for example, but also help our environment. It could be several other things. It could be mitigation. It could be adapting to the changes. But
very, very valid points. Yeah, very, very valid point you're making. But forgive me, I got lost at the point where you mentioned $100 billion. I'm struggling to convert it to Naira and Kobo. Okay.
Yes, I mean, I'm with you on that, because I was going to say it's a lot of money, really. And how do we begin to utilize this? What are the things we need to do? You mentioned some of those things, creating jobs, you know, moving more towards a green economy. But, you know, there's a lot when it comes to climate change. Some of it's, you know, is natural. But some, of course, are due to man's nature in itself. You have people not disposing waste properly. We are very poor now in separating our waste, as vis-a-vis how it's done in developing, in the more developed countries. You know, separate plastic waste from this waste, from that waste. There's so many things. And then, you know, blocking drainage systems, it causes flooding. There's a whole lot that we do as people that we, instead of mitigating the effects of climate, we actually contribute to making the climate change effects worse, if I can put it that way. So outside of creating jobs and, you know, trying to see how we can have more, maybe solar power and what have you, how do we, you know, get this money to ensure that it does what it's supposed to do and is used for what it's intended, and it's effective, let me put it that way?
Thank you, Joker. The thing about it is that the guide to assessing climate finance that we develop has highlighted about 18 funds that is available for both government and private entities to assess. But to do that, there must be a readiness assessment. So each subnational, each government must undertake a readiness assessment that determines their readiness. Because, like I said earlier on, each of these funds comes with some conditionalities that there are requirements that you must meet. And to be able to do that, you need to undertake an assessment that enables that entity, whether it's government or private businesses, to assess the eligibility criteria. And once they are able to assess the eligibility criteria, they then need to understand, do they meet the eligibility criteria? If they do not meet it, what are the actions that needs to be taken to meet those eligibility criteria to unlock those funds that is available? I tell you, one of the challenges could be, because these are investment, they are investable funds. Some are concessional in nature, some are grants, but the majority of them are investable funds. That means it is an investment. And if it has to be an investment, then there must be bankability of those projects. Those projects must be bankable so that financiers are able to see the returns, even if it is a long-term return on investment. Financiers are able to see. So the major action that needs to be taken is the readiness assessment. And that is what our tool, the guide, enables subnational, eco-friendly businesses to do that. So after the launch, which happened as part of the Nigeria Economic Summit last week, this week, we are rolling it out across the 6 geopolitical zones of the Federation, targeting government and eco-friendly businesses, and deploying expertise that supports them to carry out those readiness assessments. There's a checklist that they must go through. They must look at their current systems and processes, whether they are eligible. They must look at the possibility whether their projects, those that have identified projects already, if their projects are bankable, or what they need to do to make those projects bankable. Those are the key elements.
Let me quickly ask you this one, Mr. Ugoke. You talked about states. You said you're cascading all of these to the states. With the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy at that launch, suggests that there is quite a representation of the federal government there. So I'd like to know if there is a sit-down, or has been, or will be a sit-down between the federal government and the states when this whole thing comes up. Because even though you are talking about the checklists, I'd like to find out from you if there is a way, because as you said, it's not free money. It's money that we're either going to have to pay back or prove that we have put to some good use. So is there an insulation around it? The fear of Nigerians is when you hear $100 billion, even if not all of it is coming to Nigeria, whatever amount of it is coming to Nigeria, they want to find out how it was procured, how much of it was used. Is government trustworthy enough by the people to ensure that whatever they get is what they will expend and all of that? Can you speak to that so that Nigerians can actually not just trust your instrument, but trust that whatever investment is made is actually going to be made on their behalf and not into private pockets?
Thank you very much, Ayo, and you are really very right regarding the trust deficit, regarding especially how such funds are utilized. Most of them are tied to projects, and those eligibility criteria will look at how the systems or the organizational structure for whether they are state government or private businesses exist to, one, demonstrate capacity to deploy those resources, demonstrate capacity to execute, and demonstrate capacity to make sure that the projects are completed and right on schedule, and that, of course, that is making impact on the life of the citizenry. Those things are very, very crucial. So those structures are part of the things we look out for in the guide. And, of course, talking about the coordination, there's an element of coordination, of course, between the Federal Ministry of Finance and all other structures like the National Council on Climate Change to make sure that all of these things are properly coordinated together with the state governments or eco-friendly. So, and there is also a private sector approach to it. So, as you are aware, if we invest more in the private sector, that unlocks economic growth, that impacts on delivery of services to citizens in this green ecosystem. That is also something that, but again, it is a commitment inherent in most of this funding that shows the linkages between assessing those funds, deploying it to what it is meant for, and that's why I talked about bankability, that shows that you are able to demonstrate that you can deliver and that there will be return on investment and that it will impact on the life of the people. Those are the sequences of how the guide will be used. Absolutely. And how that will help both state government and eco-friendly businesses.
Well, it's a
project.
Yes.
Citizens are important. And a coalition usually, a partnership usually built between the people, the citizenry, and those that are delivering the project. So it's a whole of society approach that enables most of these projects to happen.
I'm also hoping, Mr. Ifeanyi Ugwoke, that we will get to a point where when we talk about climate change, we are not speaking over the heads of people. We have to find a way. I don't know how you're going to, it's a technical field, or we just have to find a way to ensure that people know that we are talking about their welfare and it's to their benefit, not just to know what this whole thing is about, but to, bring it down to their level. Thank you so much for your time this morning. And we know that we're going to be having follow-up conversations on this matter. Mr. Ifeanyi Peters Ugwoke is the national team leader of PACE. We appreciate your time again today.
Thank you very much, Ayo and Joker, for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. We're still talking about productivity largely, and that's part of our conversation when we return.
Please stay with us. Welcome back. It's time to talk Band A, Band B, and to whatever alphabet is out
that was
there.
A band that just played music. Well, it's not that band we're talking about.
How we've been enjoying it, and who should be responsible for these bands, right?
Well, it depends on the band manager.
Yeah, that. So we're talking about electricity and, the responsibility of states in this regard. Well, about a week ago, the Lagos State Electricity Regulatory Commission officially issued distribution licenses to several entities who have now officially taken over electricity distribution operations from Eco Electricity Distribution PLC and Ikeja Electricity PLC, respectively, marking a new milestone in the implementation of the Lagos State electricity policy and the expansion of a competitive electricity market in the state. With the new licenses, the implication is that Eco Electricity Distribution PLC and its Ikeja counterparts have ceased to exist as distribution licenses within the Lagos electricity market. I'm trying to rush through this, really.
I can't wait to get into the conversation, right. Actually. So I'm done with all of your introduction.
Right.
So who is talking about?
So Fuad Admashamu, Executive Commissioner, Chief Executive Officer, Lagos State Electricity Regulatory Commission. He joins us in the studio. Welcome. You're all lit up, really. It speaks about your office. Looking bright and lit.
First of all, so is it official now? First of all, welcome to the station. Thank you for coming to our program. I hope you are feeling good.
I'm trying my best to stay safe.
No, I brought my guns blazing, so just ready for it.
I'll try my best to.
Is that to say that Ikeja Disco and Eco Disco do not any longer exist in Lagos?
No, we can't really say that, no. Okay. Let's not say that. So let's just digress slightly, a little overview on this. So I'll try and speed through it. So, in May 2023, our president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, assented to the law, the Electricity Act. And so this Electricity Act also altered certain provisions in the Constitution. This provision was basically to give the state what you call oversight now, regulatory, in a way, oversight of the electricity market. So the whole idea is to try and bring regulation closer to the people. You had NERC, the Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission in Abuja. It had forum offices all around, but part of the provisions of the Electricity Act, what they were trying to do was bring it much closer to the people so that we would be able to deal with this on a more national level. So Section 230 of the Electricity Act basically spells out the procedure at which this process would go through and then all the requirements that needed to be done. Before, the State House of Assemblies could only cover off-grid solutions. So now the new law transfers all that to the state. So subject to that, the governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, in December, 3rd of December to be precise, 2024, signed into law the Lagos State Electricity Law. Now, that electricity law was what gave birth to the Lagos State Electricity Regulatory Commission, which I and my 4 other members of the team currently manage. And we were brought in December. One thing to note is after that law was signed, 2 days after, NERC, we had informed NERC, the national regulator, because it was a requirement, you had to register this. So NERC now wrote to the 2 discos in Lagos. Now the law says you are to, within the first 60 days, register, operationalize 2 subcos, subsidiary companies.
Okay.
Now those 2 subcos are the ones that we just gave licenses to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, those 2 subcos are the ones that basically NERC now manages cross-border and interstate between states. LASEC manages intra, the Lagos market.
State. Okay.
So, for example, we have the 2 discos also have small portions of Ogun State in them. Yeah. So that would now be managed by Ogun State, the regulator there. But we have over 90% of the 2 discos. That means the franchise areas they operate in within Lagos, they manage the 2 sides. We are also the biggest market in Nigeria. So those 2 discos are now supposed to register them, which they've done. Now, from December, the regulation allows us 180 days for us to officially give those subcos licenses. Now, that period We were supposed to get certain things in the market ready. We've had our challenges. We're trying as much as possible to speed it up, but taking into consideration where we are today in the power sector, we're trying to manage this process very well. The Lagos State government, the Ministry of Energy, they're working with us to try as much as possible to make sure we do this in an orderly manner, because there's a lot of capacity building that's involved. So in June, we officially took over the market, which was basically by law. When we took over the markets, the 2 subcos had already registered Excel Electricity Distribution Company, which is under ECO, that's the name of their own subco. And then Ikeja Electric registered IE Energy Limited, that's their own subco. Now, those 2 discos you mentioned are now holding companies. They are to transfer all those operationalized assets and certain things to one in Lagos, to those subcos. Literally, a new management and a new structure. So in June, when the market was transferred to us, we had to engage 2 discos, because we had to understand we were about to give them their licenses, and we had to let them understand that the rules, this is what the rules are. Of course, everybody's been carried along. They know what's going on. The only reason you just heard about the licenses was that we had to put into consideration a lot of issues that were involved in the transfer, because everybody had their unique problems, which, I mean, we all know what the outstanding monies and so many things that's involved across the value chain. And so by the time we were able to have the discussions with them, we came to a point where we felt between all parties that we had reached a point where they could get their licenses, and then we could now start to deal with them as regulators in Lagos. So that is what led to that bit that you saw.
I can say, Mr. Animashan, that this is just the first of several conversations we're going to be having with you.
I agree.
I can almost declare right here and right now that within the next 1 or 2 weeks, we're going to have you back, because we will not have enough time to deal with this issue. But suffice to say, first of all, so for the Lagosian watching you right now,
yes,
their meters are now being managed by who? Ikeja Disco or Excel, Eco Disco, or IE, Ikeja Disco or Excel?
Okay, so for discussion purposes, just to review, so that we'll call it IE and Excel.
Excel, yeah.
So, operationalizing is where that problem lies. We're getting a lot of phone calls already. We have our website up. Why do I mention the phone calls? Because there's so many questions regarding what exactly is happening here. So, on one side, there's a lot of metering initiatives going on. You have the Presidential Metering Initiative, this rep. All these initiatives were set up by the federal government to provide meters in the market. Now, because a lot of people couldn't afford them, the federal government went into this so that over time, you would pay a kind of minute amount as part of your bill. So this is being run. You know, they're still doing the transition, so all these things have to come onto a system that goes onto the 2 subcodes. Now, the other part to that is we have to also operationalize ourselves to be able to see the back end of this metering. We know that there are a lot of metering issues. You either you go with the meter assistance provider, which basically says you want to pay up front for the meter. You can get a meter quicker that way. But the federal government process is because of setting, you don't want to deploy meters in such a way where you don't get the impact of what you want to do. Yeah. It's very crucial that these meters are in place, because we need to also know that there's this thing we call, it escapes me briefly now, whereby you have a situation where we have to make sure that, what do you call it, you're appropriately metered. Yeah. We're talking about a situation where it's called ATC&C, the aggregate commercial technical, aggregate technical, commercial and collection.
It's a medical term.
This term is very crucial, because it encompasses how the discos, how the market survives. You don't want to produce electricity or bring it all the way down. You produce from the generation. It either goes through the transmission or it's a direct solution to the distribution network. Get it to the customer, and then you're not able to pay. You have that problem because we've had that issue for years. The government has been subsidizing this market, and now we've gotten to a stage where the government is beginning to flag, this is becoming too expensive for me. We need to understand. Obviously, you know, Even in the petroleum sector, the biggest problem was that you couldn't identify who was getting the subsidy. We were all benefiting. But it has come to a stage where, really, you have to live within your means.
Yeah.
The federal government is saying, we're looking to take out subsidy at some point, but they've created the PCAF, which is Power Consumer Assistance Fund, which you will have access to. But you will also give your information. We have to understand that you and I, what do we earn? Do you qualify for that subsidy?
You know,
that's another side.
Mr. Mashan, there's a lot. There's a lot. Yes. And unfortunately,
we don't have time.
We don't have the time.
Please.
But I guarantee you are coming back for a full-length interview, because I have to hide some of my bullets now because I can't really take you over. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Mr. Fuad Animashaun is the Executive Commissioner and Chief Executive Officer, Lagos State Electricity Regulatory Commission. People have looked forward to this since the first term of Governor Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and now it's happening when he's president. We'll talk more about that some other time. Thank you again for your time. Now, we told you we were going to take you to school to read your body. That's coming up next on Lifestyle. Okay. Pick your pen and paper. Time to read your body.
Really read. Read it like a book. Know the signs, they say. When to stop and when to press on, you know. The other time we had someone talk about, you know, stress. How to wear good stress and bad stress. So
I think this conversation this morning, this next conversation I want to have is more about you even knowing what is going on. I have watched on TV someone standing on the podium quite a number of times. Someone standing on the podium and while talking. I mean, I'm talking about public figures, government officials, all over the world. Right there, and the fellow is fainting. Right in front of everybody. So I think this is more of what this conversation is about this morning. Dr. Bukola Gumbiade joins us this morning. He's a lifestyle and wellness practitioner with. Appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you for having me.
We call it read your body. What do you call it?
We call it pre-diagnostic checks.
I knew there was going to be one English grammar that is going to terrorize you.
No, it's diagnostic. So before you go for diagnosis, diagnostic checks. So it's just normal English.
Even information. As an expert, Dr. Adeyemi came here, they said information is information. You break it down. So we understand. So what in everyday language, what exactly does that mean?
That means taking note of what is happening within your body before disease is established, knowing what your patterns are. Because we all don't have the same, though there's a range, and that is what you see when you go for diagnostic tests. There's a range of these, a range for that, but you should have noticed what is happening within yourself such that you understand you're normal and you take note of what is happening. So it's basically more about self-awareness, not self-diagnosis and not self-medication.
So what's the difference?
Pre-diagnostic is self-awareness. You are aware, you know when you are tired, you know when you are stressed, you know when to pause, you know when you are dehydrated.
How about people who right now as we are talking, they are tired, but they are still working?
They are still...
and they will be saying, no, don't worry, I'm good, I got it. I just want to finish this last paper. They are right now, some of them are working right now as we are talking. They're just using the back of their ear to hear what we are saying.
They are working, but the good thing is they are aware that they are tired.
Are you sure they are aware?
No, okay, some people are aware that they are tired and they are just trying to, maybe they have a deadline and they are trying to push it. But some people, it's you that you are looking at them, that are wondering, you are on last battery life, you are going very soon, you are tired, you are looking tired, and they are wondering, what's wrong with me? I'm fine, my BP is fine, this is fine.
So what's the essence, or the importance of pre-diagnostic, checks when you ignore those signs for, that, I've had this headache since yesterday, I'm sure I just haven't slept well. And then you have the headache for a third day and you're still pushing it to not sleeping well, even if you've slept 5-6 hours, depending on what. So what happens when the headache goes on? or when do you get to know maybe it's more than just not resting, this headache? It's something bigger. Are you just saying it's because I've not rested? What if it's something much more than not resting?
Okay, you've noticed you're having headache and you're thinking maybe because I've not rested well. Of course, you should make sure you rest well. And if after resting well, you're still not feeling better, then see your doctor on time. So that it's not a case of maybe a brain aneurysm waiting to happen and they have to rush you to the hospital and nobody can really do so much at that point. Because the truth is, we are in this modern day, there's so much stress, we are not eating right for ourselves, then even the hospitals are overwhelmed. So you are putting yourself at a risk by not doing something about what you are noticing on time.
So, to be clear, it's just occurred to me now. So what we are talking about is not diagnosis. It's pre-diagnosis.
Yes, before.
Something that you will see and say, well, maybe I think I need to investigate this. So what are some of these, examples?
The first one is your energy level when you wake up.
Yeah.
When you wake up, do you feel refreshed or you feel really tired?
When you wake up?
When you wake up in the morning, do you feel rested or you feel tired? When you wake up and you put your feet on the ground, maybe you are going to the restroom, are you feeling pains?
Or dizzy.
Or dizzy. Those are things you need to watch. Do you have energy crash after eating? That's after eating, you are so groggy, you just want to sleep. It's a different thing to decide to sleep after eating.
Excuse me.
I wanted to say that one. Like, it seems that it's the norm that people say, let me just eat a plate of eba or abala and go and sleep.
Thank you.
It's as if that is the normal thing.
Thank you.
That's what I'm trying to differentiate.
Because once I eat amala with ogbono soup,
you want to sleep is different from you just crashed after eating. You decided on your own that, I finished eating, I want to sleep.
What if you don't know the difference? Because it's such a norm now. You may feel that energy crashes because it's a norm to eat and then sleep. Okay. So you won't know that there's something wrong.
Where you will know the difference is maybe you're in the office and you are actively busy. You have something you are doing, but immediately you have your lunch, or you have maybe it's breakfast or dinner or whatever, or you just had a meal. You find yourself not being able to concentrate, you're already feeling very sleepy. It's a different thing if, this is my weekend, after eating, I want to go and sleep. That is you deciding, because you are the one in control. But when it's a case of, I don't have control over it, in fact, I've seen people who skip meals because of that. That they know after eating, they would feel sleepy, so because of that, they will skip.
What's the implication of that, Dr.?
The implication is telling you that there's a metabolic overload. Your body is not processing the food well. It's feeling, some of the organs are feeling stressed in some way. The digestive system is overloaded in a way. So that is what it's telling you. So you now go for diagnostic check to confirm what is happening.
Okay.
So what about the ones that, when you can't control it, like pregnant women? They don't have control over most. They believe they don't.
No, pregnancy is
another condition.
Normal physiological condition.
How do you read your body as a pregnant woman? Like, for instance, that energy crash.
Pregnancy is not. It's not a time to read your body.
What are that? So that's one. Because I really wish you had.
Because there's a lot going on at that stage. So that's not a time to read your body.
Okay. What other sign should people look out for right now?
One thing that people should also look for is is your mood or your libido. Now you see a lot of people, for the men, you are using sildenafils, you are using different drugs to boost libido. For the women, there's no solution, maybe kayamata or something that they are using now. But if you have to use something to get in the mood, then something is wrong, because our body is an energy allocation system. It will discourage you to do something that will make you burn energy. So, and when you have libido, you burn energy. So if it's discouraging you, then there's a problem.
Okay, this one, I know that we have to speak in a way that, what if this is more mental as opposed to physiological?
The mental, what you call mental and physiological, they work hand in hand. Your emotions have its role in your physiological state, and your physiological state have its role in your mental state. So they work hand in hand. If you are stressed, for example, or you are not happy, your body is producing a lot of cortisol, and of course that will affect the hormonal balance and of course the libido.
Interesting. I'm sure that there are others.
Yes.
What are them?
There's also the urine color.
Yeah.
Oh.
You need to, yes.
Okay.
Your urine color, you need to be sure. Your urine is supposed to be pale yellow, not deep gold. So if it's pale yellow, then you're fine. But if it's deep gold, you are either dehydrated or you have a lot of toxins. And if you are not using a supplement, of course, it shouldn't be deep gold. Then another thing you should also check is your bowel movement.
Yeah.
What's the frequency? What's the texture? Color. Because that will tell you if there's a gut imbalance.
So and color as well.
Yes, and the color.
So
those are
essentially, people should not just look out for these colors. They should know the colors.
They should know
and the implication of them.
Yes.
Okay.
And children, is one thing for adults to be able to read their bodies because you can feel. But how do you do that for children?
You start educating them.
Right.
There should be discussions about how do you feel right now. Your urine, what was the color? Your poo, how many times have you been to the loo today and all of that? There should be discussions around this in the home. You start educating them early so they grow up to be self-aware so they can diagnose themselves before diagnosis is needed.
And there are those, well, every organ is vital really because there's some that they take out and they say you don't need it, like when you have this appendicitis and all that. But there's some vital organs that are very important for body function. Like when you hear people start saying they have liver issues and kidney issues and heart issues, how do you read your body in terms of those organs? How can you notice that something is wrong? I know that you talk about the poo and pee. I think those ones too are good. But outside of those, what if you don't have any indication of maybe a failing system?
There's no way. The body speaks to us. We are like an hybrid car. The body speaks to you. But what happens is we become desensitized to those alerts over time. If your body tells you to go and urinate and you hold it, you will lose that part, that urgency part in the brain.
Okay.
It will stop telling you. For the kidneys, for example, though it's silent, you might not know, but one of the first things that happen in the human body is the loss of energy.
Right.
The loss of energy is the first thing. So, because there are so many times that we see clients, for example, and they tell you, this is it. I've been feeling off for the past 2 years. I've been feeling off for the past 6 months. Yes, they've been feeling off, but their lab results was always coming back normal.
Yeah.
So it requires deep investigation because if you feel off, make sure you stay on your doctor to find out what is happening.
Feel off, meaning feel uninspired, lethargic?
Yes, your energy level is low. You discover you start craving for maybe coffee or something sugar or energy drinks before you can do basic things.
Whoa.
So when you start noticing all of these things, or you just realize your mood is not stable, you are crying for no good reason, you are angry for no good reason, then something is wrong fundamentally.
Physiological. What if some of this is like a mental state? Some of these things, like maybe the low energy, mood swings, it could be depression of some sorts that's coming on.
And depression is also happening inside the body. It's not outside of the body. It's inside. So if you, like for example, depression has been linked with gut imbalance.
Wow.
So if you are depressed, for example, and there's no reason to be, we call someone being depressed when there's no much reason to be depressed. You can't be sad because there's a reason, but if you are depressed and there's no visible reason or it's something you should be able to get out of, then check your guts.
Okay. We've heard this quite a bit, but we sometimes just take it for granted. Quality of sleep.
Yeah.
How significant is that in all this?
Very significant. Because when we sleep, that is when the body detoxifies itself. It's like you have a very good plumbing system in your house that brings in fresh water, but you can't flush your toilet, your kitchen sink is clogged. It's not, no matter how beautiful the house is, you will not want to stay in it. So when you sleep is when detoxification happens. That is when the brain rests, and it's even able to sweep out the toxins that happen. Your brain is able to develop new brain cells. So there's a lot that happens when you are sleeping. The body grows, as in not grow like you are growing physically as an adult, but repair happens within the system. So sleep is really important.
Yes, and the timing, there's this timing of sleep that I see everywhere, as in between 10 p.m. and this thing happens So, I mean, is that actually true?
Yes. The body has its own circadian rhythm.
Yeah.
Which is, you have pineal glands at the back of your eyeballs. So from the first sunlight, the body starts counting its own time. And from the first sunlight, so the body knows, oh, let me produce cortisol to make you stay awake. Let me start producing digestive enzymes to digest food and all of that. And when it's getting to 10 o'clock, the body is winding down. It's reducing digestive enzymes, it's reducing some, then some other enzymes are happening. So the body has its own natural clock, and it's best to sleep according to that clock so that you don't look for trouble.
You know, you're talking about normal people.
Okay.
Because there are some people who will say, look, no, that's not who I am. My own is different. You know, there are so many issues to raise with you, Dr. Agnubede, but we are totally out of time now.
Okay.
Because we have to take some other issues up. Just guaranteed for you as well. We have only just started. Because I see on the list that you have already given us, I see breath control, I see menstrual changes, whatever that is. You talk about it the next time we engage you. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Dr. Bukola Agnubede is a consultant, a lifestyle and wellness doctor. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Okay, so what's next? The home run, home stretch, we'll call it. Stay with us.
Home stretch, our artist of the week, is in the house. Kunle Awunusi is a creative entrepreneur with preference for television. He has created ideas in audio visuals to entertain, advocate, educate, and empower on societal ills to workable and sustainable solutions, to create workable and sustainable solutions for them. And he joins us in the house, looking very, I don't know what to call it.
Young.
Very young.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Usually I say that the safest thing to say is good day.
Oh, good day. Oh,
night.
Oh, okay. Why am I even saying good morning back to you?
I know.
Honestly.
Yeah. Let's get to it because we really don't have as much time as I'd love to have with you.
So I'll start with cool.
Calm down.
Calm down first.
One thing that excites me about you, first of all, is that you transited between careers, right? Tell us a little about that first. I told you I'd ask you that.
I keep thinking about that word transition. Okay, so
because you left one career to come to another.
Well, that's the way people see it.
Okay.
But that is not what it says. I didn't transit.
Okay.
If you asked me this in 2012, then maybe I would answer and say, oh yeah, this is because of this.
Okay.
So yes, you're saying transition because you know me as a media person, and then now I'm making films.
Oh, yeah.
What if I told you that this was orchestrated? Going into media at the time in 2011 was for a reason, and the reason is this: to make films.
Okay.
And to make films like Coma. Okay. Right. So I set out to make films, actually. I made my first short film in 2006. I made my first TV series in 2009. And that was when everything changed, in 2009. At the time I was making all these things, I was also in front of the camera. I wanted to be an actor. And so in 2009, when we did the TV series, and I was handling post-production, and I wanted to do a whole lot of things with the cuts, but I was seeing myself and hearing myself. And so that kind of like affected my my prowess as a post-production supervisor. So I told my team then that I think this will be the last time I'll be on TV. I think I'd like to be behind the camera because I saw a lot of errors in the visuals. I thought it could have gone a different direction. And so from then on, I started to read about production, producing. Yes, I EP the film, the series, but not like I knew anything about production. So I started to read from then on in 2009 up until 2011. So the plan was to make films, actually, to make films. And so reading and digesting everything online regarding production, producing film, directing film, and even cameras, I knew a lot, but they were just, theoretical knowledge. And so in 2011, I thought it'd be nice to actually have empirical knowledge of these things before I embark on my very first journey, which is to make my first film, right? And so how do you do that? So there are people that I wanted to get close to. In 2009, I saw somebody's trailer, a film, and that was when everything started. I saw a trailer on TV, and I was blown away. I thought, this is big. How do people think and create materials like this? I like to be around this person.
And it's in Nigeria.
It's in Nigeria.
By Nigeria.
Yes, I'm going to tell this story later. I don't want to mention the name yet, because this name was what orchestrated the whole thing.
Now, I like something that you said about you wanted to make movies like Coma. I had situations where I spoke with people in your industry, asking them, look, I see quite a number of films on Netflix, and I like historical movies, but I don't like epics. Forgive me. I love historical movies. How did this come to be? There's a series I saw on about a drink, a very popular drink in Nigeria today. I don't want to mention it because I could be surcharged myself just for that. But it talks about a family of brewers, and it's on Netflix, the house of that family, and all of that. That's a movie. It tells the story of how something came to be since the 1800s. Now, we have stories like that. Some have been told, some have not been told, some may never be told.
And some are just waiting
So tell us about what informed this particular community, where it is, and why did you decide to tell this story?
All right, so I didn't tell a story, I didn't make a film, an historical film. Yeah, it's part of the things about Coma. It's a story on its own, and then we found Coma tribe, and we infused them into the story, right? Coma, I didn't know of their existence until when, we embarked on this journey, right? I found them in 2023, actually. I already had the skeletal framework of this film, and I wanted to... this particular film, Coma, is centered on 3 worlds. It's not just centered on Coma. So if you haven't seen the film, well, it released yesterday to the cinema and it's showing nationwide in Nigeria. So it's centered on 3 worlds, started from Coma and then transcended into Nigeria in 1991, and then from there transcended into modern days. Right, so Coma, the Coma culture, I didn't know we had primitive culture or primitive tribes in Nigeria. And so that day, I was looking for tribes. When you're making films, I'm very particular about my visuals, right? So I had this culture in mind, but I did not know of their existence, right? So I picked up my phone and I searched, I didn't know primitive tribes in Nigeria, and I found 3 tribes, 3 interesting tribes, Coma, Jibu, and Kambari.
Where are they?
In Adamawa State. Coma lives in the mountains of Adamawa State. These people are real. As a matter of fact, we had the premiere of this film on Monday, and we brought in our lead consultant from Coma, all the way from Coma. Now he is well educated, he speaks good English, things have changed. I was asking him, so at what point did your walls crumble to civilization? Because as at early 80s, they were still struggling to, hold on to their culture. Yeah, these people wear loincloths and the women are naked, like they are bare up, and yeah, that's how they are. And they have beautiful culture, they killed twins and all those things. Those were things that we attracted us to the culture, and so we reached out to some people who connected us to Mr. Bashir Abu, I think Board of Education in Adamawa State, who then sent us resumes of people who were born, raised, and live in Coma, but are teachers.
Yeah.
So we got these resumes, we did a shortlisting, and then we did our pick, and then we started all over again to rewrite the story.
Right.
When we were writing the story for Coma, that Coma part, we did all our research online, picked all the materials we could get online. There are not a lot of materials on them, right? We even used AI, GPT, to get some facts, and we're done with the script before we connected the Coma people. When we shared the scripts with them, we were stunned when it came back that most of the things that we found online were fallacies.
Wow.
Yes, they were not true to the culture. And so we had to start to rewrite. Shout out to Andrew Dogari, who was our lead consultant. And we wanted to shoot that beat in Coma language. In fact, internet will tell you Coma speaks Fufude. No, Coma speaks Coma. They have their own language. And it's super complicated. But they wanted to shoot that beat in Coma, and so we did. If he warned us, though, they warned us, hey, this thing is hard. I said, we'll go through with it. All we need to do is first transcribe, second, go to the studio, and then record the entire dialogue in Coma. Then we share with the actors. They listen 2 months before shoot. We rehearse. We did all of that. 3 days to shoot. The actors started to complain. There's just no way this won't affect our delivery, because when I'm saying things that I do not understand, it will affect my delivery. So I had to throw in the towel, like, you know what, let's just switch, let's go English. And that was what happened.
Wow. And, you know, it's a very complicated selection process of which of the projects, because you identify that there are several tribes that you were looking at.
Yeah.
But what stood out for you, you know, with the Coma people? I mean, differently to, you know, the other tribes that you could have used.
Well, so Coma people are more primitive than the other tribes.
Yeah.
In fact, those other tribes, Kambari and Jibu, no, they are not primitive tribes. I did my research. As a matter of fact, I did some things around Kambari people. They are not as primitive as Coma people. And then also, because of the structure of the story that we had, it connected well with the Coma people. We had a situation where a mother had twins, and because it was a taboo in such community, she was buried with the twins alive. And it turned out that Coma people, that was their culture.
Wow.
And so this entire story, let's talk about the core of it. The core of it is connected to your very first question, which is my work to shift culture and all these things. This story, the entire film, is centered on belief system. It is the themes that we sampled here: belief system, optimism, and then we brought in just one extra theme, which is generational curse. The reason why everyone needs to see the film, it connects with every one of us. It's super relatable, and the subject of it would shift whatever norms of culture. This movie is different. You just have to see it. Right. We have been lied to. Not like we've been lied to. I mean, we're born into a system. Your belief system is formed by the things that...
Where can we see it?
It's showing everywhere now, nationwide, every cinema you go to, it's everywhere.
You say cinema, because when you say everywhere, if
cinema. No, not on your phone.
Exactly.
Oh, what? Excuse me, inside YouTube? No. It's showing in all cinemas nationwide now. From yesterday, it started showing from yesterday. And
all right.
So, okay.
What, Mr. Awusi, let's just agree that you have started a war. And let's hope that you can sustain it. Because shifting culture, someone said that culture will eat your strategy for breakfast. And how well we're doing in that, I guess we're going to have to see it. So the movie is titled Coma, right?
It started Coma.
And that's the name of the community
in
Adamawa State.
Yeah, title Coma, subtitle Beyond Awakening.
So now you know that there is such a place in Nigeria as Coma.
If you didn't know.
It's not Coma.
It's not Coma. And it's not Coma.
Now we finish.
It's not Coma.
It's not Coma.
Thank you so much for your time this morning. Kunle Awusi is a media practitioner and filmmaker. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much, sir.
All right. I guess that's calling it today.
Yes.
Amaya Makinde.
A yellow day. And I'm Joke Rogers.
Enjoy the rest of your weekend.